what's going on, everybody? RogersBase here with my review of One Piece manga chapter 1148. And right at the very top of this video, I just want to tell you guys, in case you haven't seen me in a while, that all of my reviews are part of my live streams that I do every Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific time right here on the YouTube channel. However, I've had so many people request over the past few years, could you please splice out the review portion so I don't have to scrub through like an hour-long, 2-hour-long VOD to hear your thoughts on the latest chapters. And so I figured, because we're going on break next week, this week's chapter would be the perfect opportunity to test this out and upload my review separately. So if you guys want to see my reviews uploaded as videos to the channel, make sure you support this video, leave a like and leave a subscribe if you like anything that I have to say, and please enjoy my review of One Piece 1048. They packed a lot of good emotion into this. They packed a lot of good moments into this one. This is good. We've needed this, to be fair. I feel like review time, we've been in a bit of a drought over the past month for Elbaf. I feel like the past 3 or 4 chapters, in my opinion, have been disappointing compared to the rest of Elbaf. I feel like the rest of Elbaf, from the very beginning, even with the stuff with the Lego School, moving up to where we got the reveal of Loki and everything, the mural, all super hype. And then I feel like, you know, and this happens every story arc, where we're getting a little bit of the lull, where if you're a week-to-week reader, it's a little bit of an issue. If you're reading it in a volume, it's not a problem, right? But that lull, and the stuff that we got with the kids, I felt like wasn't that interesting because we didn't really get what we got in this chapter. I thought all this stuff with Ronja, making her be the one that we care about of these kids, and not Colin, who's the kid of Gabon, kind of wild stuff. But like the stuff with Ronja and tying these kids to the morals and the ideals and the themes of Elbaf as this proud warrior nation, I actually really liked that, because that type of self-sacrifice is something I would fully expect from a kid that was raised in Elbaf. Even these kids that were raised in like peacetime in Elbaf, right? Post King Harold, these kids still have the same kind of values that we would expect of the giants of Elbaf, of this proud warrior country. And I feel like we got a lot of stuff with kids in the last like 3 or 4, but we didn't really get those good emotional heights. Instead, we got them rattling off names. Instead, we got like the moment with the firefighters and with Jinbei, maybe because he wanted Jinbei to do something cool because he got washed by Gunko. And then we got more of the stuff with Gunko, which was like cool to see the powers of the Celestial Dragons. But realistically, because we weren't getting like a lot of other information and we were getting introduced to other ones, and there was stuff going on with the nightmares, it was getting a little sloppy, in my opinion. It was getting a little sloppy. This brings it all home. This brings it back. This feels very, very, very good. And I actually think if you read this as like a chunk, it's probably pretty solid. Because then you get the full arc of starting things off, seeing Jinbei doing something cool, seeing then Jinbei and the rest of the group get knocked down by Gunko, getting that moment of Summers taking on Saul with Robin and Chopper hiding there, finding out that their key goal, not only to kidnap these kids, is to burn down the school and basically do O'Hara 2.0, and then leaving it up at the end to Robin and Gabon, and then this being our reveal, tying back to what we got in like what I think is one of the last really big hype chapters of this arc, which was that moment with Gabon and with Luffy, where they were fighting with the key. Dude, I feel like this was a really solid chapter of One Piece. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I really did. It has been a minute since the last time we got a good, like, Nico Robin fight. And even the way that they handled the Robin fight this chapter, I thought was really well done, right? Utilizing, one, more of her powers that she's developed since the time skip, right? Showcasing her full-body clones. 2, showcasing those assassination powers that she's always talking about, dating back to Alabasta. We used to get a little bit of that. We got a little bit of that with Yama back in Skypiea. We got a little bit of that with Black Maria. But it's far and few between with Robin. I feel like a lot of the time, us Robin fans are just like craving for her to do something good. So I actually, even if it's to the detriment of like Jinbei and Brook fans, because they got washed by Gunko, her being the one to find a way to outsmart Summers and stall long enough for Gabon to show up. Because realistically, look, if Jinbei, Brook, Nami, and Usopp together couldn't find a way to stop Gunko, realistically, there was not going to be any feasible way for Robin to actually fully beat Summers on her own. And that's, I think, a big reason why at the end of my review last week, I was like, look, I don't really have super high expectations for the next chapter because I am somewhat worried that we're going to see the same tried and true trope we see all the time with Robin, right? Where Robin ends up, doing something that in turn, thank you, by the way, for the super chat, Castler, like doing something that in turn allows another character to kind of take the glory, right? We've seen this with Dressrosa. We saw this with, what's his name, with Kyros. We've seen this a lot with the course of One Piece. And I feel like this time around, while Gabon still did save the day at the ending, I feel like Robin absolutely had her moment to shine, right? Like, I think because of the way this has been set up over the course of the past few chapters, Robin even being able to do this, to be able to throw him off balance, chuck a God Knight off a branch in Elbaf and trick him utilizing the full body clone and having that great scene where she gomages with the pedals, right? And then you see her true body on the ground untying the rest of the Straw Hats. I think that actually works very well. The number one emotion I felt throughout the course of this chapter was like happiness for Robin for actually doing something, but also like genuine hype. I think the way they set up Gabon showing up, instead of pairing it with him running through the stuff with the Giants, like I think it was very smart of Oda to have the stuff with the Giants reacting to Jarl's decision and Summers and Ronja. I think it was really smart to not show Gabon's path to them. We knew at the end of last chapter that Gabon was going to do something, but the way that he sort of like paired everything in this chapter, it almost makes you forget that Gabon is on his way, right? Like, unless you've just read the previous chapter. I feel like you go through this one, and this one I actually think having the time of the week to week in between helps with the tension and the emotion, because it does kind of feel like once Robin throws him off and he still manages to come back with his thorn rope, you're like, all bets are off. Things are looking pretty scary now. What's happening? And instead, you get this hype moment at the ending. Gabon, boom, landing back down, swiping his axe around, and then that reveal that not only does Summers know Gabon, not only are they familiar with each other, but he says straight up, wait a minute, it's not coming back. Meaning Gabon has probably been waiting to take this man's hand off for years. And the fact that he's actually doing this now also leads me to believe, especially considering last arc where we finally got the death of a Gorosei, we got the death of Saturn, this leads me to believe that, like, we might actually see the death of Summers over the course of this arc. They might not make it to Final War. I've been saying that obviously the God Knights and the Revolutionary Army, they have to go toe-to-toe during Final War. But I'm totally fine with some of them getting picked off here. In fact, I think that would be great. I think that's a really cool way to show the tension. And clearly Gabon showing up here with the other Straw Hats and helping them leads me to believe that at some point, probably relatively soon, Gabon is going to essentially train the main Straw Hats in whatever this hockey is. And even if it's not all the Straw Hats, I think it's at least the ones with Conqueror's hockey. I think it's at the very least Luffy and Zoro. Maybe we even get the awakening of Conquerors within Usopp during Elbaf. People want Usopp to do something. This would maybe be a cool thing, especially considering Usopp's whole thing is he's here to see these warriors fight in Elbaf. He's looking forward to it. Who is here right now looking at Summers? Usopp, he's watching all of this. He just got washed by Gunko. He knows he needs to get stronger. Maybe somehow Gabon is able to awaken something within him. Because again, Conqueror's hockey isn't something you can develop. This is something that you have to train. And if this is like a branch off of armament hockey, that's one thing. But every time we see Gabon do something, we see the Conqueror hockey little lightning strikes going all over the place. Which then leads me to believe that we are most likely going to get, in some way, shape, or form, development of advanced Conquerors. Right? We got Ryo with all the stuff in Wano Country, with Luffy being able to punch Kaido underneath the tough scales. We got all the stuff with observation hockey back at Whole Cake Island with Katakuri. To me, this would make the most sense with where we are in the story, that we get the further development of Conqueror's hockey, and that we end up seeing Gabon, showcasing his moves and helping Luffy and helping the rest of them. So realistically, again, I think this ending to the chapter is very strong. And overall, I feel like this chapter feels to me like good old-fashioned classic One Piece. This feels like something that I have been waiting for a long time. And I feel like even as much as I've enjoyed Elbaf so far, despite the past like 3 or 4 being kind of mid, not this one, obviously, this one's great, I feel like Elbaf has been very strong. When you think of all the stuff that has already happened in Elbaf in the time frame in which we spent in Elbaf, like I know it's probably felt weird to some of you out there because we obviously have the breaks in between, right? We've been going on breaks pretty consistently. We've had like 1 or 2 almost every month. We're going on break after this chapter. So it probably feels weird because on one hand, you guys are like, well, wait a minute, like, you know, it feels like nothing has happened over the course of 2-3 months. But in reality, a lot of stuff has been packed in there. Like just in Elbaf alone, in these first, 20 or so chapters of Elbaf, we got the reveal of Loki. We got Gabon showing back up again. We got the stuff with the God Knights coming in clutch. You got the reveal of the God Knights. You got the reveal that the books from O'Hara were actually saved. We got to see the Robin and Saul reunion. Like there's a lot of stuff that has been, Loki, of course, all the stuff with Loki and Haruden. There's a lot of stuff that's been packed in here. And so I feel like because of how much, and the mural obviously as well, because of how much like interesting lore stuff was packed in like the first 15 or so chapters of Elbaf, I think that's what kind of made these past few, combined with the breaks, feel like they're a little less than. But in reality, again, I'm happy to concede that I actually think in a group, seeing the theming and how we paced out this chapter, I actually think this chapter specifically retroactively makes some of the last 3 or 4 that I wasn't too hot on a little bit better, actually. I'm feeling very strong about this. So, yeah, overall, I think this was a really solid chapter of One Piece. I'm looking back at some of these other... Again, Ronja's speech, man. Ronja's speech. That whole, I'm a lucky girl, everything is going to turn out okay. Like, I've been taught that I don't want to make anybody sad. I don't want to do the wrong thing. I know that burning the books is going to make you guys sad. Please just allow me to jump off the cliff. Like, again, warrior's honor right there, Ronja. And very reminiscent of the stuff we got with Yasui, like, giving up yourself over the greater good, over, themes we see time and time again in One Piece. I just really, genuinely loved that stuff. And again, to think that Ronja was the one that actually did something crazy. Yeah, and then again, dude, that fight sequence with Robin and the drawing of that sequence as well, too. And even kind of like some of the humor in between, I thought worked in this. Like, they weren't doing any stupid, cringy jokes. Like, I thought the stuff... I know it's Mother's Day today here in the United States when I'm recording this. But, like, the stuff with the mom and, like, the kid's mom's nightmare thing, like, none of that really worked with me a couple chapters ago, considering, like, how many scary things were actually happening during those chapters. It felt off to me. But I felt the humor with, like, the passion that Summers feels, and then the lovers quarrel thing and Robin jumping on top of him and throwing him off. I felt like that stuff was actually really solid. I did really enjoy that. And I felt it kind of broke up the tension in a nice way. It didn't feel out of place. It felt like something this confident, cocky dude would say with Thorn powers. Yeah, I dig it. I think this was overall a really, really, really solid chapter of One Piece. And again, dude, I'm looking back at some of these pages of Robin putting in the dirty work, the Quattro Mano, holding him down, snapping his neck. Like, when we get those visceral attacks in the anime, I'm sure people are going to be losing it, especially her turning into the flower petals afterwards and everything. I feel like this was incredibly strong. And I feel like if Elbaf continues this trend, and we're now, like, out of the stuff with the children being in danger for the most part, and the fire, and I mean, they're obviously still going to be in danger, because, Summers is not going to let this fly. I'm doubting he's going to get killed instantly. As great as that would be, that Gabon could just go and slice him up. I think realistically, he's probably still going to be around for a little bit. Which leads me to believe that even though Ange will probably hold off on burning the library for the time being, I feel like Gunko and Killingham probably have other plans and are going to try to do something. We know Dory and Bragi, based on this chapter, are on their way to go help, right? We know Gabon obviously just showed up for them. I still feel like relatively soon, I would like to see Luffy, Zoro, Sanji come back up from the underworld with Loki. I also still kind of think I see a world in which a character gets knocked down to the underworld, and that is our direct tie with the main 3 again. So I think maybe we can get that in an upcoming chapter. But we see like Ripley and Frankie are still moving. I'd say my only complaint, but it's not really with this chapter, it's just with the last 3 or 4, and something that I've been saying in these live reaction streams. The only complaint is I feel like Mural Piece was so good. Mural Piece was so freaking good that I think not getting any reveals after Mural Piece or anything directly tied to that, and instead just having like Frankie and Ripley blow up the Nightmare Cryptids, I'm like, I would really like to get some other tie to this. Maybe this is going to be our tie, right? Maybe because the library is not burning and Frankie has now seen that mural, that maybe this is all going to come together, or we're going to get some information about the history and the world at large. I think that could be really cool. Outside of that, though, I have, and that's not even a complaint directly related to this chapter. That's just a complaint overall, kind of what's been going with Elbaf. But again, man, more chapters like this, please, dude. Again, this felt like classic One Piece. Even the cover page I thought was good this week. Actually moving us forward, seeing another one of the scabbards, right? Kawamatsu, potentially showing up soon. Seeing all of them together. Ulti in page 1 now working with Yamato with that new Beast Pirate thing I've been saying since the end of Wano. Solid chapter overall. I do not even mind the fact that we are going on break after this. I really was happy with this one. Let me know what you guys thought of this chapter, though, down in the comments below. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Nakam!